You're going to have to excuse me. I'm going to make a whole lot of mistakes today. We'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting today. Today's August 17th, 2023. This meeting is being recorded, and so be aware that anytime any of us are speaking, whether we're in the audience or whether we're here on the board, that we do need to talk into our microphones. I'd like to introduce a couple new members to our board. First off, Paula Richmond. She's from the southern region, and we'll give her a chance to introduce herself. We're just tickled to death to have a rose among all these thorns up here today. So glad she's here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am excited to be here. It's involved in the RAC process on the sidelines mostly, but enjoying it and participating. I am a mother of twins, 16 years old. As far as my personal life, I live in Beaver, Utah. I am passionate about wildlife and enjoying outdoors and anything that helps protect that, especially for future generations. I've been involved in conservation for over 20 years and feel like that's a huge asset that I bring to the table as far as being involved in a lot of different organizations and meeting many different people through that aspect. And it's been a great blessing in my life. And I'm just grateful to be here. I'm excited about this opportunity, the people that I get to work with and the people that I already know on the division and the great work that they do, and just to help out where I can. So I'm excited about it. And I like to hunt, so that's always a good thing too.
Thank you, Paula. Welcome. And our other new board member is Kent Johnson. He's from our Southeast region. We'll give him a chance to introduce himself a little bit.
Kent Johnson. I'm from the Southeast region, as Randy said. I live in Green River. I've lived there for actually about 40 something years now. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm a lifelong hunter and fisherman. I love the outdoors. I love Utah and what we have to offer. I've spent the last 8 years in the RAC process, so I'm familiar with the process. I'm pretty excited for this new adventure and a new step and learning some more things and working with these good folks up here. And I understand that I won't be allowed to make any mistakes. Stacy has already told me that, so she'll keep me in line. So hopefully I don't screw it up too bad. And I'm just glad to be here and look forward to the opportunities working with everybody.
Thank you, Kent. And let's start down here on this side with Wade. You introduce yourself. We'll come down the rest of us.
Wade Heaton from the southern region.
Gary Nielson, central region.
I'm Randy Dearth from the northeast region.
Weird, it doesn't work. Bryce Thurgood from the north.
And Brett, introduce yourself. You're online. Appreciate you being here with us.
Brett Selman from the computer.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, we do have actually a pretty light agenda today, but has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? And is there any modifications or additions to that? Without seeing any, I'll call for a motion to approve our agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion was made by Bryce, seconded by Wade. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous here, and I see Brett. Thank you, Brett. It's unanimous. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our June 8th meeting? And is there any corrections or additions to those? Not seeing any, I'll call for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Motion made by Gary. Any second?
I'll second that.
Wade made that second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And I can see on the line that Brett's waving or raising his hand. So that is unanimous. Thank you. Our action log. Turn some time over to our Vice Chair Gary Nielson for the action log.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On our action log today, we have a CWMU recommendation committee. We've got the the division personnel here to talk about that, so we'll give it to them. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, Chad Wilson, Private Lands Public Wildlife Coordinator. So the update on the CWMUs, we do have a CWMU rule committee that is meeting. We've had 3 meetings so far. It's a little bit harder after the archery hunt starts to get people to meet together. So we're going to take a little bit of a break during the hunt. Not a true break, but we won't be meeting, but we'll get materials out and working on that still looking to have it done for that June deadline is still our goal. So is there any other questions on it or?
How many times have you guys met? I know you've met a couple of times at least.
Yeah, it's been 3. Yep. We just had our 3rd meeting on Tuesday. So
Okay.
we had a lot of good discussion.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Is that the only action item that we have? Okay,
For today.
thank you, Gary. We'll turn the time over to the division for director update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While my presentation is getting pulled up, I'll just also welcome Paula and Kent to the Wildlife Board, and the division is excited to work with both of you, and we're excited for the things that you bring to the board. So thank you. We also yesterday held our RAC and board training, which was a big meeting, and we had new RAC members there as well, and we're excited for all the changes there and look forward to working with all of them. DWR update. I'm excited to be here today. It's been a crazy week and a lot going on inside the Division of Wildlife this week, and so many great things are happening around the state, and it's my pleasure to be able to give this update to the board. So let's see. Mike, I'm not sure the clicker's working, so you might have to advance my slides. It just advanced, so maybe it's just delayed. So let me give a few highlights from our admin services section and things that are upcoming. Our fall general season turkey permits will be available online and over the counter starting September 7th at 8 o'clock. And the next major application period is for sportsman's permits. You can apply from October 18th to the 8th of November. Our big game permit sales, we've had, those have been pretty wild and crazy the last few years. They're still pretty wild and crazy, but they went off very smoothly this July. The upgrades that our sections have done and the work behind the scenes to make sure our systems could handle the traffic, even with the changes in the elk, the traffic that was there was still immense, but the systems handled it great, and we really didn't have any concerns there. With those July sales, I thought that I'd give a little bit more of an in-depth look at how those elk permit sales went with the new changes in the elk management plan. You can see some of the changes that were made really made the sales days drawn out much longer. The general season, any bull elk permits, that 15,000 sold out in 13 days. So roughly 2 weeks they were available for people to go on. The majority of those were sold in the first few days for sure, but then it just kind of kept trickling in. You can see the breakdown of residents. 95% of those permits were for residents and 5% went to non-residents there. On the any bull elk late, the unlimited permits that was created, that the number that we've issued so far is almost 2,700 permits. So, I know there were a lot of questions regarding how many permits will be sold during that unlimited season, where those will still be available, but you can see that that number isn't, it's not crazy out there like some of the numbers that were being thrown around. The other thing I would say is a lot of those were bought right out of the gate, which I guess it's just exciting to be buying your elk tag when everyone else is buying their elk tag. So again, the breakdown there of of residents and non-residents, about the same. So our general season spike bull elk permits, they took a few days longer to sell out, but almost 3 weeks those were available to be bought. 98% of those went to residents and 2% to non-residents. And then multi-season, which was capped at 4,500 permits, man, we're right there. I actually thought that was 4,494 and we were within 6 permits, but it's looking like we were within 8 permits of that cap being hit anyway. So that's pretty remarkable. A couple other on the elk permit sales. I thought you'd find these interesting. So the new youth elk permit that is being offered unlimited for all the seasons, we've sold 3,700 permits almost. And the great fact to me is that 45% of those are being sold to first-time elk hunters that have never had an elk permit before in their life. I don't know the age breakdown of that, but that's pretty exciting that we've got a bunch of youth that are interested in hunting elk for the first time, and hopefully we have a great season out there for them. And they have a lot of opportunity. So I know that a couple of my kids have those in their pocket and they just think it's the coolest thing ever. So, that was another thing, was we had discussions in here on how many non-resident youth may be coming. You can see that breakdown is it's mostly residents that are buying that permit. So, and the last one, the general season archery elk permits, which are unlimited as well. We've sold 8,200 of those as of a couple days ago. So, and again, pretty similar, 91% of those to residents. I don't know what that number is compared to years past, but if you're interested, we could pull that up. But anyway, this has been a major change for the division. And so far, I think the results of at least the permit sales and everything else look very positive. On to our aquatic section. The main thing we've been discussing inside our aquatic section is slow kokanee salmon fishing at Flaming Gorge. We've had a few individuals and groups reach out to us on, if that fishery has crashed and what's being done there. And our data from our fisheries folks shows that hasn't collapsed, but the last year's drought, water withdrawals, water going to Lake Powell, really had an impact on spawning success. We think that with the water levels changing and those coming back up, that we're going to be fine. It's going to take a couple of years to rebound. So we're looking at options to increase that and speed that up. But again, we think we're fine there. We don't believe that the fishery has crashed, but it is a big deal to many of our anglers, and we're working through those concerns. On our habitat section, we created a new Bicknell Bottoms habitat management plan. It's been in place for a little over a year, I think, at this point, and we were able to, one of the things that was identified in that plan was getting a little better access to portions of the WMA without having to try to wade across that river there. So we installed a bridge that will give both pheasant and waterfowl hunters better access to a bigger portion of the WMA. Anyway, a lot of great work being done by the southern region on that WMA. On habitat restoration projects for FY24, we've listed the ones out here that we've identified for benefiting mule deer, and there were 99 projects that were funded with almost 160,000 acres that will be being worked on. We are very close and under contract to purchase property, wetland area, just north and west of the airport. And that was through money given us by the legislature, and then we're also using some PR dollars to pick up that property. We should close on it here pretty quick, and we won't be in a place that we'll be able to open that up immediately to the public. There's some things we need to work through, but hopefully by fall of 24, we're ready to roll. It's not a great big property, but really critical to the Great Salt Lake and water issues and wetland issues. So, and then I wanted to mention our partnership with UDOT, and we've during the legislative session, UDOT was awarded $20 million to work on wildlife crossings throughout the state. They've been a great partner with us, and we have always had a list of critical areas that we're looking at wildlife crossings. And so we've submitted some grant proposals to match with federal funding for a bunch of that to try to maximize what we can do. Some of those, there's one on the I-80, I-84 junction to Peterson. We've submitted one for Highway 89 east of Kanab, and also Highway 40 from Fruitland to Starvation. So we're hopeful that we haven't heard on those grant applications yet, but I think with the partnership, we're in a good place to be competitive to match some of those monies. And if we're not, we still have options there. On our law enforcement section, with the crazy winter and the anticipated workload with shed antler season being delayed and a starting date of May 1st, we created a deadhead reporter app for people to be able to download to save our officers some time in the field. And it's had great success, honestly. This is you can't pick up a head attached to the skull out there, and we've wanted people to get our officers involved to take a look at those before they are able to be donated, or if they can be donated. And this is the number that, and that's a significant increase from years past on the number of deadheads, which we were expecting, but it's also, I would say some of that is related to the fact that you couldn't go out and be looking for sheds in March and April. And so, but man, when May 1st came around, it was very busy. The app worked well, and we're excited to use that in the future. Our enforcement section also, go on, Pooh Fly, sorry, it's trying to get me. Our enforcement section held 2 national conferences here in July, and one of those is very, very big, the North American Wildlife Enforcement Officers Association. And that has, all of the states are involved in that, as well as Canada. And we had our Officers Association, in cooperation with the division, held that event down in Provo. I think we had roughly about 400 officers come to this state and with their families and participate in training. And it's a great opportunity for us to showcase our law enforcement section, what they're able to do, as well as the partner support that we have in the state, and was really a great event. And then when the other one was the International Wildlife Crime Stoppers Conference. And again, just we're lucky to be in a place to highlight what we're able to do here in Utah with our law enforcement, and both those conferences went very well, and we had great support for those and great partner support, and we appreciate that. And we did just have a new officer start in Sanpete County. Austin Farron, I believe is his name, and we're excited he's on the ground. Boots are running. We do have multiple vacancies across the state for enforcement as the fall hunts start, that we have plans in place to provide adequate coverage, and we should be fine. Our outreach section, the state fair is coming up September 7th to the 17th. Go check out our wildlife building. A lot of work goes into that. We'll also be providing fishing during that, and our theme for the year is wildlife matters to everyone. The sheer number of people that we are able to see come through the wildlife exhibit every year is our opportunity to reach out to a group of people that they're not always involved in everything we do from the hunting and angling side, but they still support wildlife, and it's our chance to interact a lot with those folks. And if anyone wants to go catch worms with me, I'd love to catch worms for the state fair. So I'll be doing that one of these nights when we get a good thunderstorm. So that gets me excited. In our building here at EWEC, across over there, we have a new mural, an artist from Argentina. Ashley was giving me the details of this yesterday, and I would not get them right, but I think he spent 11 days here painting the mural in our in our new building. He's from Argentina. It's about essentially Wilson's phalaropes that have breeding or wintering grounds down in Argentina. They have the same brine shrimp that we have here in the Great Salt Lake, and they hit here on their way to their breeding grounds. So anyway, really neat mural, and go check it out. Totally impressive. Our wildlife section, super busy with some of the new studies that we have going on, and the partners have been working hard. And I know some of you have been able to interact with our wildlife section on some of these projects. And I wanted to highlight our neonate study on deer and elk that's going on, and tracking 200 deer and 25 elk in the following areas. And that's the La Salles, the San Juan, Range Creek, and then both deer and elk on the Nebo. This is going to provide us with some amazing data. You know, the initial data that's coming in, it has, I'll be honest, it is varied across those units greatly. We came off a very hard winter, but we're learning, you know, our survival so far on these deer is a little over 50% on those fawns in the first, 2 months of life. So, and that does vary. And that includes fawns that were born stillborn, or, so some impacts that we've seen that we really have not documented in the past. So this is going to be really critical to our mule deer management moving forward. And we're excited about the data that we're going to get on the elk. We're seeing what you would typically, I think what we would expect on elk, much higher survival. Of those 25 elk calves that have been caught and collared, 21 are still alive. So, and we have some preliminary results on, causes of mortality on our fawns and that, but it does vary unit by unit. And I hate to start getting into that without specifics. So the other thing I'll mention there is we're working with local universities, BYU and the Chucker Foundation, USU, on Chucker collars that are out. We have 29 collars that are out on Chucker. One USU's put a call in the West Desert, and then USU has also started collaring dusky grouse and has a collar on a dusky grouse. That's exciting for us to see and to start monitoring how our upland populations are doing, especially in the fact that we were blessed with a bunch of water. So DWR also helped on brood counts out on the Parker with the universities and the Chucker Foundation, and found that our brood success is up, at least through August. It looks good, higher than it has been, and that's a good thing to highlight. Now, some of the hunts start this weekend, if you didn't know. So Saturday, our archery hunts start up. I had them add this slide just because there have been a lot of changes. When you open up that guidebook, there's a good page and a half at the front that says new changes and things to know and understand. And it gives me a little bit of pause that, we want hunters to have a great hunt out there. We want them to be respectful of other recreationists, respectful of each other. We know that, we came off a hard winter, and we also think that the hunts are going to be very well. They look good. A lot of the units look very good. We're excited to see what that is, but people really need to take a little bit of extra time. Make sure you use the resources that the division offers, like the hunt planner. Love that thing. Look at it almost every day with different units around the state, and just getting up to speed on the guidebook, and then making sure you know how to get a hold of us in the field, our law enforcement section, as well as the division offices or whoever you need to contact to get the information that you need to have a good hunt. We want to stress that. And with that, I think that's all I'll share, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Mr. Chair, if I could. Director, I know we talked a little bit about it in June, but could you give us another overview on how we think we're not calling it shed season, but that delayed start on the shed gathering, how did that go? How do we feel like the majority of folks abided by that?
Yeah, I think we did. Wyatt could give us probably provide some data on violations that we had. I think we have put together a shed committee as well to look at shed issues and give the division some recommendations. They have met, I think it's only been one time at this point, but we're looking forward to seeing what their recommendation and advice would be to the division. The one thing I would say about the May 1st opener this year that gives me a little bit of pause is there were so many areas of the state that were not accessible or had very poor access still around the 1st of May. So I think that maybe we didn't see the type of issues that we might if we had a subpar winter and the Rangers were wide open come March or early April or even sooner. So I think there's a lot involved there. But generally speaking, I feel like the division had good support for putting that emergency closure in place and delaying that opening. We had Tri-State, which is a meeting that we hold with Wyoming and Colorado, and we had that last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And this last winter's issues were discussed at length. And I mean, both those states have some form of shed closure seasons in place. Wyoming has also made some law changes there as far as one, they extended or thought about extending, maybe they did extend their May 1st closure even a little bit later in certain areas. And then they put some different regulations on non-residents that want to look for sheds, and Wyoming had to start later, I believe, and buy a conservation stamp or something like that. But just those conversations revolving around winter as well, we really had major impacts, obviously, in the north part of the state on our mule deer and some elk survival, but nothing to the extent that Wyoming saw. And I would say pockets of Colorado that got hit worse, but it has, it's forcing the division, which is a great thing, to plan ahead for these types of situations. And, we did emergency feeding, which we provided all that data to those two states. And it's interesting data. And we probably, part of the shed committee, that fly's got to die, but part of the shed committee needs to really analyze if we're going to do emergency feeding, is it coupled with emergency shed closure, depending on what happens moving forward, because that puts the division in a weird spot and how that works. And anyway, there is a lot to work through there. Wyatt, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, excuse me, Wyatt Bubach, Law Enforcement Chief. So during the closure, we put a significant amount of effort into enforcement and patrol of that closure. We had about 10,000 enforcement hours put towards that effort between the closure and May 1st. We had roughly 400 to 450 reported violations during the closure and issued about 100 to 125 citations for violations associated with shed gathering or those acts associated with closure. We also have a couple notable cases that are currently going through the court process associated with items that we found during our patrols during those efforts. So good effort from the public as far as reporting those types of things with those 400 to 450 reported violations, and kudos to our officers for the level of effort that they put into that as well.
Thank you. One follow-up question, Director. Did Wyoming and Colorado indicate whether they thought they'd continue with their restrictions in the coming years?
I think that with them having their shed season in place, I believe that that's where they'll stay. Yeah, I don't think there weren't really conversations about them changing. Alignment between the states is always a big discussion on how we do that. But it's also, Colorado and Wyoming have different closures for different parts of the state as well. So, it's not just an all-out ban from my understanding in either state. And then there's certain restrictions in certain areas. And so, but I don't think there was conversation of them going away from their season. So
Thanks.
Appreciate that, Director Shirley, or Director Shirley. I know a Director Shirley, so I'll have. Okay, we'll start on our first agenda item, which is the Expo permit audit. I think Sarah Scott will be there to represent that for us. And if there's anyone that would like to speak on comments, Stacy, where are comment cards located? She's got them. Anybody wants to comment on an action item today, please see these two sweet ladies up here, and they'll get you a comment card. Tell them be limited to three minutes per person for comment cards. So is there any questions from the board? I suspect everyone's had a chance to review the Expo permit audit. Is there any questions that they'd like to ask Sarah? So is there anything you'd like to give us that you didn't on the presentation? I mean, it was pretty thorough.
Yes, I don't think so. I think we'll just go through it really fast, and if you have questions at the end, you can ask them as well. So, okay. So the Expo audit, this is for the 23 Expo. Utah Administrative Rule was adopted in 2005. It provides up to 200 limited entry permits to be issued at the Wildlife Expo that attracts at least 10,000 people. And this activity helps fund wildlife conservation initiatives in Utah. A little more background. The first audit was held in 2007. You guys approve the permits annually, and the permits are to be issued through a random process with a $5 application fee. And the division completes an annual compliance audit of performance for the rule. The current contract is from 2022 through 2026, and there are two partners that work together to distribute the permits: Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife and Mule Deer Foundation, and they have been great to work with. I would like to personally thank them for their willingness to work with me, and their data is always readily available, and I never have any trouble getting that from them. So these two groups work together to distribute the permits at the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo, and this audit covers the 2023 Expo performance. Per the rule, this is what we look at, the scope of our audit. It includes that the data is properly handled and secure. The programming for the applications and drawing of the permits is unbiased and random, that the selected applicants have been verified for their eligibility to possess the permit before we issue the permit. We verify that the retained revenue was accounted for appropriately, and that the project revenue was expended or transferred in the time allotted. So we will go over the information that we reviewed. Technical representatives from the Department of Government Operations performed a thorough code review prior to witnessing the draw. No issues were identified there. The contractor had a third-party system scans completed prior to taking applications, and they completed their self-assessment questionnaire for payment card industry standards. Appropriate measures were taken to ensure the system and data were secure, both electronic and paper, and we had no compliance issues with security. This is the application data since time began. So at the very bottom is this year, applications, numbers, they're growing steadily. It shows the resident, non-resident breakdown and the gross revenue of the $5 per app shown here. Here's just a graph showing the trend lines. The applicants are the blue line with the axis on the right, and the applications are the red line with the axis on the left. The trend shows an increase from last year in both. So the retained revenue, the $5 per app, is broken out into two separate pots of money, basically. The retained revenue of $1.50 per application is for division-approved projects, and $3.50 per application is for contractor-approved conservation initiatives in Utah. This is a breakdown of the revenue for 2023. Fund balances were verified, deposited, and held in separate federally insured bank accounts, and the groups have 2 years to expend the funds, the funds each year. So we have no issues found with the project revenue. So here's the first pot of money, the division-approved project revenue, the $1.50 per app. We'll look at the two funds separately. So here's the first one. The group split the $1.50 revenue evenly between the two groups. We add that to the carryover funds from last year. It gives us a total that they can spend, and then we remove the project expenditures that they spent, as well as projects that were billed very recently for the next fiscal year. And we have received the money for all of those projects currently, and then we verify the remaining funds in their bank account. The revenue for the contractor-approved conservation initiatives in Utah. Again, the group split the funds evenly. One recommendation that we had for the groups this year is that the projects are paid for with the intended revenue source. Sometimes when there's a bunch of stuff going on, it comes out of the wrong account. But a list of the projects for these funds are in the audit report. And here is the table again of the for the $3.50 revenue. Same logic as the last table. A little bit of other information. Applicants had to validate in person, and applicants have to have a valid hunting or combination license to apply for the Expo permits. So our conclusions, we felt the measures taken to ensure data was kept secure and confidential. The program code was reviewed and verified as random. Project revenue requirements were met. Project revenue deposits were verified and kept in separate federally insured accounts. And Expo revenue has been spent on over 100 beneficial projects and conservation initiatives. And we have no other findings or recommendations. Are there any questions? Well, good.
Sarah, thank you. I appreciate the audit that we supplied with our packet. Also was very comprehensive. There's a few of the same slides were in there, but it was it had a list of all the projects that were completed in 2021, 2022, and so far in 2023. And it's amazing what we're able to do conservation-wise with these funds and to help the state of Utah and its wildlife. And this, in my opinion, this is a really, really good program that our conservation, both the Expo and the conservation tag program help us with. So any comments, questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just to echo what you were saying, this program, it's had a few bumps along the way in the past, and I love that there were some remedies and some solutions, and they have things in place now that are clearly working very well. I think the public supports this program. These two groups, I really appreciate SFW and the Mule Deer Foundation for what they do with this. This is a wonderful event for Utah in a lot of ways. Certainly in the fact that it's generating revenue for projects, but in a lot of other ways, this benefits our state. So I'm just grateful for this program, and I'm grateful for the Expo. I think it's good for wildlife.
Thank you, Wade. Yeah, it brings, when you look at the amount of people that come, 19,000 people to Salt Lake City for an event, that's incredible. And the amount of additional pocket it puts in the convenience stores and hotels and restaurants, and it's, I'm sure it's a good shot in the arm for them too. So it is an amazing thing. Any questions from the public? There was no public comment on, oh, I'm sorry, we do have one public comment. Troy Justiceson from SFW, please stand in line there.
Thank you. Troy Justinson, Sports and Fish and Wildlife. Welcome. It's awesome to see you guys here. We want to thank the others that passed on and with the time and effort they put in the Wildlife Board, but congratulations on your nomination and being here, and we're excited to work with you. But I just want to say thanks to the Division of Wildlife Resources and Sarah, and particularly helping us work through this so we can be as transparent as we possibly can with these funds to show these people. And I want to speak a little bit to it. These Expo funds have become a lifeline for upland game and waterfowl projects within the state of Utah. The monies that we take, speaking on SFW's behalf, that we are able to fund in the waterfowl world and the upland game world far exceed what they're allocated through their normal budgets. And sometimes they're absolutely critical that they would not happen unless these funds were available to them. So it's allowed us to expand our footprint to be able to help that and expand the waterfowl world and the upland world and a lot of different things. So this has been a great thing. We are very grateful to be able to participate in this. We're always open to suggestions. Like Wade pointed out, I think we've been able to iron out some of the problems we've had in the past, but we're always open to suggestions to move forward. One point I want to make out is we had a record year last year at the Expo with applicants to it. I think it was 19,000 that applied for the permits, but we had close to 60,000 attend the Expo. And it's become one of the greatest shows or expos in the West. And it's all of us can be proud of this. The state of Utah, the Division of Wildlife Resources, our conservation groups. This is a real gem to the state of Utah. So thank you for allowing us to participate in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. We didn't have any online comments on this one. This did not go through the RAC, so there's no RAC comments either. Any questions or comments before we call for a motion to approve this audit item?
Randy, I do. I just want to have public disclosure and full transparency that I do work for different conservation organizations, SFW included. I also help with Wild Sheep Foundation banquets and Utah Archery Association, as well as Utah Wild Sheep Foundation. I just want to have that in full disclosure, and I do receive some financial compensation for that. And I also help at the Expo. So I'm a supporter of the Expo, but I probably will recuse my vote for this one just for optics sake. I don't have any decision-making capabilities at these for the Expo or anything related to where the permits go or how this is applied, but I do just want to disclose that full transparency so there's no question about it.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Paula, very much. And I'm sure they appreciate all the help you do at those things. So we've seen her at them. Okay, with that in mind, I'll call for a motion to approve the Expo permit allocation audit. Permit audit.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Expo permit audit as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Wade, seconded by Bryce. All in favor, raise your hand. And I see Brett's online with his hand up. Thank you. So it is unanimous with the exception of Paula, which I think she'll excuse yourself, right? Or recuse yourself. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, and thank you, Sarah. We'll move on to our Expo permit allocation. Covy Jones, our Wildlife Section Chief.
Thanks for getting that up, Mike. And I'd just like to echo everybody's comments. It is so awesome to have the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo in our state. The energy that brings, the support that brings for wildlife, the additional funding that it brings for wildlife. And I'm in a super lucky position where I get to see the fact that we can call on these partners at any time to fund something that may be difficult for us, that's important to wildlife, and hear them answer the call time and time again because of the revenue that the Expo generates. But it's not just the revenue, it's everything else that comes along with it and the support for wildlife in our state. And I think it's awesome. And, you know, if you're lucky enough to attend, you may get to see Mr. Justison walk out to Baby Shark or Eminem or whatever other music they put on for him, which is also super fun. So with that, we'll get into, we do have some changes recommended changes in Expo permit allocations. So you'll see here, we're reducing a lot of the any legal weapon early hunts for elk that we have in the Expo, or recommending to reduce. All right, and then the next slide, and you can see the units on this slide. We'll give everybody just a second. And the next slide, we're moving a lot of these from that early season to the mid-season. And this is really just to align with the statewide elk plan. The last statewide elk plan that we went through with a committee and then passed with the board, there was a sentiment that we wanted to reduce the number of permits that we had in that early season. We wanted to maintain that opportunity, but really to focus on other seasons and other weapon types when we hunt elk. And so we just wanted to align what we send over to the Expo public draw with our public draw and have that be similar. You'll notice there are 2 more elk permits. We're adding 2 more than in the previous slide. So there are 2 additional. And that's because we're recommending to reduce by 2 mountain goat permits. So there still will be 2 mountain goat permits in the Expo, but we're recommending to only have 2. So we'll have 2 mountain goat permits, 2 moose permits, 2 of each of the once in a lifetime species permits. And at a few years back in Utah, mountain goats were doing really well. We felt like we could offer the opportunity a little more. And now we have several populations that have been struggling a bit. With turkeys, just a simple northern region, winter was hard. So recommending to move one of those turkey permits from the northern region to the southern region. And that's all the proposed changes. For an entire list of changes, you can look at the rack packet, but still recommending 200 permits. And with that, any questions from the board?
With the goat permits, where did you switch them from? We still have 2, but.
We still have 2, and I don't remember off the top. I'd have to look at the rack packet, but we still have 2. We just pulled those 2 off completely and moved them to elk.
Okay.
So we added 2 elk permits and we removed 2 mountain goat permits.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions for Covy? We do not have any comment cards. We do? We do have a comment card. Troy, come on up, please.
Troy Justinson, Sports and Fish and Wildlife. We support the proposed permits for the Expo and Covy this year. I think I'm going to walk out to Jesus once before a sunbeam. So, thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Any other comments before we call for a motion, discussion?
There is one more thing, Mr. Chair, that I would like to mention. That is that Expo permits are another form of public draw, so everybody understands. Anybody can put in for these permits. It is just another form of public draw. But every year, this gets a little confusing, and we dealt with this last spring. And I just want to remind the board, they asked us to look at the rule and see if there's a way that we could account for Expo permits, but not deduct those from what we send over to our draw contractor. So that what we present to the board is what actually gets sent to our draw contractor. We still plan on making that change and bringing that change forward to the board, but we'll do that in this spring. That's okay. And it just makes things more clear is what we're attempting to do. So.
Thank you, Covy. That is the transparency that's I've seen grow in the last probably 10 or 12 years is incredible over this thing, and I appreciate that, Covy. The more transparent we can get on everything, the better we are. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, call for motion on this item then.
Make a motion, we approve the Expo permit allocation for this upcoming year.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Bryce, second by Kent. All in favor, raise your hand. Up, and I can't see. There, thank you. Thank you, Brett. We had another presentation up there, so very good. Motion is approved unanimous. Oh, with one, yes, with one recusal. Thank you. And that is the end of our business for the day. Very, very short meeting today, which is actually good for me since it's my first one and I've already screwed it up pretty good, so won't do too much more. With anything else, we'll close the meeting. Can I get a motion to end the meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion to adjourn by Wade, second by Paula. All those in favor? Brett, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with us too. Thank you. All right, thanks, everybody.
Brett, next time I'll come get you if you need a ride. If your horse and buggy wasn't hooked up, I'll come pick you up.
Well, my wife wasn't going to Salt Lake, so I don't dare drive down there, alone. It's pretty scary.